The coffee shop was buzzing. Steam curled from espresso machines. The smell of roasted beans wrapped around tired workers like a soft blanket. Lena moved between tables like a ghost in an apron. She'd been on her feet since dawn, taking orders, wiping counters, pretending her world wasn't collapsing. She smiled at customers, she made perfect lattes. But inside, she was a storm barely contained. Bills, hospital calls, sleepless nights. And then, the baby photo, always tucked into her pocket, her anchor, her reminder. She touched it when no one was watching. A small, crinkled photograph, a chubby baby with soft curls and bright eyes. The only thing she truly loved. She couldn't afford to fall apart, not now. The bell above the door jingled. She didn't even look up until silence fell. Every customer turned. A tall man in a black tailored suit stepped inside. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, eyes like a midnight storm. He didn't belong in a cafe. He belonged in whispered rumors and danger. Nikolai Romano. The name people said only once. The new head of the Romano Mafia family. Lena had seen him in newspapers, always flanked by men in suits, always serious, always untouchable. Now he was standing 3 feet from her counter. She swallowed. "Welcome. What can I get you?" His gaze swept over her face, not like a flirt, like someone reading a file. "Americano," he said, deep voice smooth and low. She turned to make it. Her hands shook. She hated that he made her nervous. She hated that he was so effortlessly intimidating. He watched her pour, watched her press the buttons. Her heart thudded. Why was he here? She placed the cup on the counter. "That'll be $3.95. Broy." He pulled a crisp $100 bill from his wallet, slid it across. "Keep the change." She blinked. I can't. It's too much." Broy, his lips twitched into something between a smirk and a warning. "I don't repeat myself." Broy, she froze. Then quietly put the bill in the till. He picked up the cup, glanced at her name tag. Lena. Abraha. Hearing her name from his mouth felt strangely dangerous. He turned and walked to a corner table. Alone. No guards, no entourage, just him. She tried to shake off the unease and kept working. Orders piled. Steam hissed. Her head started to spin. She hadn't eaten since last night. Hours passed. Her body grew heavier with each step. Then the edges of her vision blurred. A loud ringing filled her ears. She tried to reach the counter for balance. Saber. But the world went black. When she woke, her cheek was pressed to something firm. She smelled expensive cologne. Her body was weightless. Strong arms held her. She blinked slowly. The ceiling moved above her. No, she was moving. Someone was carrying her. She tilted her head back. Nikolai Romano. His jaw was clenched. His eyes burned with something unreadable. "Hey, put me down," she whispered weakly. "You fainted," he said, voice low. "Your staff panicked. So I stepped in." He carried her into the staff room like it was nothing, like she weighed less than a feather. He set her gently on the couch. His hand brushed against her arm. Heat sparked through her skin. She hated how her heart responded. "Do you always work until you collapse?" he asked. She glared weakly. "Do you always show up where you don't belong?" For the first time his lips curved, not into a threat, but into something amused. "Tough," he murmured. Before she could reply, his eyes caught something. A small folded photo had slipped out of her apron pocket and landed on the floor. He picked it up between his fingers. Her breath caught. "No, don't." She reached out, panic shooting through her. He unfolded it slowly. A baby's face stared back. Chubby cheeks, bright eyes. His expression shifted. The amused mask vanished. Something colder, sharper, but curious replaced it. "Who's this?" he asked quietly. She snatched the photo from his hand. "None of your business." His gaze hardened. "Everything becomes my business when it drops at my feet." "Das." She shoved the photo back in her pocket and stood, wobbling slightly. "Thank you for helping. But you should leave. I don't take orders." His voice softened strangely. "Eat something before you pass out again." Then, as if he owned the place, he turned and walked out. Her chest heaved. Her hand trembled against the photo. Why him? Why now? That night, Lena sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at the baby photo. She whispered, "I won't let anyone take you from me." But in the back of her mind, she kept seeing his eyes, the moment he saw the photo. Not disgust, not mockery, something else, something dangerous. She didn't know it yet, but that small photograph had tied her life to his, and Nikolai Romano never let go of anything that caught his interest. The next morning, Lena's alarm rang before the sun rose. She sat up slowly, her body still weak from yesterday's collapse. The memory of strong arms lifting her, his arms, flashed through her mind like an unwanted replay. She shook it off. She had no room in her life for dangerous men, especially not that man. Bills waited on the table, a half-empty fridge, a baby photo tucked safely in her pocket. Reality was loud and unrelenting. Meanwhile, in a high-rise office across the city, Nikolai Romano leaned back in his leather chair. The morning sun sliced through floor-to-ceiling windows, spilling light on his sharp features. He wasn't used to being intrigued. People bored him. Fear or respect, that's all they ever gave. But the girl from the cafe, Lena, she wasn't afraid in the way most were. She looked him in the eye, she snapped back, she guarded that photo like her life depended on it, and then she fainted, right in front of him. Nikolai tapped his fingers against the desk, thoughtful. "Find everything you can about her," he ordered quietly. His right-hand man, Marco, nodded and disappeared. Back at the cafe, Lena tied her apron a little tighter, determined not to repeat yesterday. She forced herself to eat a granola bar before her shift. Everything seemed normal, until the door chimed. Her breath caught. Nikolai stood there again. Black shirt, rolled sleeves, no tie this time. More dangerous, more casual. His eyes scanned the shop and landed on her. "Why is he here again?" He stepped up to the counter. "Americano," he said, like yesterday. She made it, avoiding his gaze. When she handed him the cup, his fingers brushed hers. A spark ran up her arm. She quickly pulled back. "You shouldn't be here." "First, why not?" His voice was smooth, teasing. "Because this isn't your world." He leaned in slightly, resting a hand on the counter. "Maybe I like visiting other worlds." Eber, she stepped back, heart pounding. "Stop it. Whatever game this is, I'm not interested." Eber, his eyes glinted. Who said it was a game? All day she felt his presence in the corner of the cafe like a shadow she couldn't shake. He read a newspaper, drank slowly, watched, but not like a predator. More like someone studying her. When her shift ended, she rushed out the back door, hoodie pulled tight. The last thing she expected was a black car waiting. The window rolled down. Nikolai's face appeared. "Get in." Abre, she froze. "What?" "Abre, you look exhausted. I'll give you a ride home." "Abrafer." I wasn't asking. Kieber, his tone wasn't threatening. It was firm, controlled. Somehow that was even more dangerous. She sighed, glancing at the empty street. The buses were delayed again. Rain started to drizzle. "Fine," she muttered, sliding in. The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Warm, enclosed. Nikolai watched her from the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel. "Why do you work yourself to death?" "Eber," she crossed her arms. "Because no one else will pay my bills for me." Eber, something flickered in his gaze. Admiration? Pity? She couldn't tell. Halfway through the ride, she noticed him glancing at her pocket. She pressed her hand over it instinctively. "The baby," he said quietly. "Who is it?" "Eber, stop asking," she snapped. He raised an eyebrow. "I don't like secrets. And I don't like strangers digging into my life." Eber, their eyes locked. Heat and stubbornness clashed in the air. The tension wasn't just anger. There was something else, something electric. She looked away first. "Thanks for the ride," she muttered when the car stopped in front of her building. Before she could get out, he said softly, "You're interesting, Lena. And that photo, it means something." "I'll find out." Her heart skipped. "Stay out of my life, Nikolai." Or he smirked slightly. Too late. She slammed the door and ran inside before he could see the way her hands were shaking. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. His words echoed in her mind. "I'll find out." She looked at the photo again. A lump formed in her throat. "I'll protect you, no matter what." Outside, in the shadows of the street, a black car lingered for a moment before driving away. The next morning, the cafe manager pulled her aside. "Lena, someone left an envelope for you." Her stomach twisted. She opened it. $100 bills. No note. She didn't need one. She knew exactly who it was. Nikolai Romano. Her pulse raced. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to throw it away. But part of her, a tired, desperate part, wanted to cry. She stuffed it in her bag, heart torn. She didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The fainting, the photo, the car ride. The money. All of it had pulled her into his orbit. And once you stepped into Nikolai Romano's world, there was no way out. Rain washed the city that night. Slick streets reflected the glow of streetlights like mirrors. In the back of his black SUV, Nikolai Romano stared out at the water-streaked windows, his mind fixed on one image, Aberker, the baby photo. He didn't like mysteries. He hated loose threads. In his world, secrets were dangerous, and Lena carried one in her pocket every day. Marco returned with a manila folder. "We ran a background check," he said, sliding it across the seat. Nikolai flipped it open. Lena Novak, age 24, no criminal record, one part-time job at the cafe, small apartment, clean history, too clean. She's practically invisible, Marco muttered. "Everyone leaves a trace," Nikolai replied, tapping the baby photo he'd printed from memory. "Keep digging, family, hospital records, anything." Abernar, Marco hesitated. "Boss, why her?" Nikolai's jaw tightened. He wasn't even sure himself. It started with curiosity. Then that moment she clutched the photo like it was her heart. Something about her pulled him in. "She fainted at my feet," he said slowly, "then hid a secret from me. I don't like being left in the dark." The next morning, Lena rushed through the drizzle toward work, hoodie pulled tight. She hadn't slept well again. All night she'd been thinking about the envelope of cash. It was still sitting in the drawer at home. She hadn't touched it. She told herself she wouldn't. But bills don't care about pride. She sighed, pushing through the cafe doors, and froze. He was there, again, sitting in the corner, a black shirt, sleeves rolled up. A newspaper folded neatly, like he owned the place. Their eyes met instantly. Her stomach flipped. She forced herself behind the counter. Pretend he's not there, make coffee, smile, survive, but his presence clung to the air like heat. When the lunch rush died down, she stepped into the back room to breathe. She didn't hear him until the door clicked shut behind her. She spun around. Nikolai leaned against the wall, arms crossed, blocking the only exit. Her pulse jumped. "You can't be back here." He ignored that. "You didn't use the money." "Abrithi," she blinked. How do you know?" "Ibri. I know everything that matters." His voice was calm, low. "Why refuse it?" "Ibri," she lifted her chin. "Because I don't want anything from you." Something dangerous glimmered in his eyes. But instead of lashing out, he stepped closer. "You're different," he murmured. "Most people would have taken it. No questions." "Abraham, not most people," she shot back. He was close now. Close enough that she could smell the clean, sharp scent of his cologne. The air grew heavy. Her heartbeat thundered. His gaze flicked to her lips, then back to her eyes. "I can see that." For a terrifying second, the world shrank to just the two of them. His body heat, her shaky breath. The tension crackled like static. Then the manager's voice called from outside. "Lena, we need you up front!" She darted past him, heart pounding, cheeks flushed. Nikolai watched her go with a faint, almost amused smile. That evening, Lena walked home under a gray sky. Her shoes splashed through puddles. She felt off balance. No matter how many times she told herself to stay away, Nikolai kept pulling her back into his orbit, and what scared her most wasn't him. It was how a part of her didn't want to pull away. She hated that. Meanwhile, Marco returned with new information. "We found something. Lena's mother died when she was 6, no father listed. She bounced through foster homes. Nothing unusual there, but..." Abraham handed Nikolai a birth certificate. The baby on the photo, same last name, name's Noah Novak, born 2 years ago, mother Lena Novak, father unknown. Nikolai stared at the paper, his fingers tightened slightly. "She has a child," Marco said, "and she's hiding it." A sharp, unfamiliar ache stirred in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was anger, intrigue, or something else entirely. "Find where the child is," he ordered quietly. and keep this between us." That night, Lena sat at her kitchen table with a stack of unpaid bills and the baby monitor glowing faintly beside her. From the small bedroom came the soft breathing of a sleeping 2-year-old boy. Noah. She brushed her fingers over the photo again, the one that had caused everything to change. She whispered to the dark, "I'll keep you safe. Always." She had no idea that somewhere in the city a man like Nikolai Romano was already tracing every thread of her life, and once he decided to pull Ibra, the entire fabric would unravel. The next day, Lena arrived at the cafe before sunrise. She hoped an early start would keep her mind busy. No Mafia Boss, no intense stares, just work. But as she stepped inside, her stomach dropped. A black car was parked across the street, same one as before. She hurried inside, pretending not to notice. Nikolai watched through the tinted window, coffee in hand. He wasn't here for caffeine. He was here because something about her life didn't add up. And because, whether he liked it or not, she'd taken root somewhere in his thoughts. Marco sat in the passenger seat. "You sure about this, boss?" Nikolai didn't answer. He was watching her tie her apron, brush a strand of hair behind her ear. A simple act, but there was a softness to it that didn't exist in his world. "She's hiding a child," he said finally. "People don't hide children without a reason." Lena tried to focus, but every time the bell over the door rang, her heart jumped. She half expected him to stride in again, all quiet power and dangerous calm. By midday, her nerves were fraying. She slipped out back for a break, closing her eyes against the cool brick wall. "You look tired." Her eyes flew open. He was there, leaning casually against the wall like he'd been waiting all morning. "Do you have a hobby?" she snapped. "Or is stalking single moms your new one?" Ibrahim's brow arched slightly. "Single moms?" She froze. Her breath caught. "Idiot." Stepped closer. "Interesting choice of words." "A slip of the tongue," she muttered, trying to push past him. He blocked her gently with one arm against the wall. Not threatening. Just there. Close. Too close. "You can lie to everyone else," he said softly, "but not to me." Her heart hammered. The warmth of his body seeped through the cold morning air. She hated how her breath hitched. "I don't owe you my life story," she whispered. He tilted his head, eyes locked on hers. "Maybe not, but secrets have a way of dragging people into places they don't belong." She shoved his arm away and walked inside, cheeks burning, heart in chaos. That night, Lena tucked Noah into bed, kissing his forehead, his tiny hand curled around hers. He was everything. Her reason for breathing, her secret. She'd spent 2 years building a quiet life where no one could find them. No father listed, no questions asked. But Nikolai Romano was asking questions anyway. At the Romano mansion, Marco entered with new intel. "We found the boy. Daycare records. Same address as Lena's apartment." Nikolai stared at the photograph. Noah, laughing, holding a stuffed bear. Something stirred in him he didn't expect. A protective spark. Or maybe it was just curiosity getting too deep. "Don't approach," he said finally. "Not yet." Marco frowned. "You're getting involved." Nikolai shot him a cold look. "I don't get involved." But when he was alone, he couldn't stop picturing the way Lena looked at him when she said she didn't owe him her story. There was fire in her. Fear, too. And beneath it, a quiet strength. He'd seen hundreds of people break under pressure, but something told him Lena wouldn't. 2 days later, Lena was walking Noah to daycare, umbrella in hand. The city was wrapped in mist. She held his little hand tightly, her heart fluttering at every passing car. Then she saw it. Black SUV, parked a block away. Her blood turned cold. She rushed Noah inside, kissed him quickly, then marched straight toward the SUV. The window lowered. Nikolai. Calm. Collected. Like he'd been waiting for her. "Following me now?" she hissed. He regarded her for a long moment. "I needed to see him." She froze. "What?" The child. "Noah." Her throat tightened. "Stay away from him." His voice dropped, low and steady. "If I wanted to hurt you, Lena, I wouldn't be here talking." The rain started falling harder, but neither of them moved. Their eyes locked, her fear colliding with his intensity. "You don't know what you're doing," she whispered. "Maybe not," he said softly. "But I don't walk away from mysteries." She turned and walked off before he could see the tears building in her eyes. That night, she sat by Noah's bed, watching his peaceful little face. Her chest ached. He was everything she'd ever tried to protect. And now, the most dangerous man she'd ever met knew about him. She whispered to herself, "I won't let you take him. I won't." Ibrahim, but deep down, she didn't know how she was going to stop him. Meanwhile, Nikolai stood on his balcony, rain slicking the marble beneath his feet. He lit a cigarette, watching the city below. He'd built his empire on control, on knowing every move before it happened. But Lena Novak was a variable he hadn't accounted for, and the baby in the photograph. Brr. He wasn't just curious anymore. He was invested. Night was quiet, too quiet for Adrian's taste. The city lights blinked below his penthouse like 1,000 secrets waiting to be told. But his attention wasn't on the skyline tonight. It was on her. Elena. She was asleep in the guest room, her breathing steady now, but earlier she had nearly collapsed again. The doctor had warned her to rest, but she had stubbornly insisted on helping in the kitchen. He remembered the moment he found her fainted for the second time. His heart had clenched in a way that felt foreign. Mafia bosses didn't panic. They didn't rush. But he did. And that baby photo, Ibrahim, he hadn't shown it to her yet. It burned like a question in his pocket. Who was the baby? Why did she keep it with such tenderness? He leaned against the wall outside her room, listening to the faint sound of her breathing. His men were downstairs, guarding the building as usual. But this wasn't part of his usual life. This woman had slipped into his world like an unexpected storm. Inside, Elena stirred. She opened her eyes slowly, still hazy from sleep. The warm glow of the bedside lamp fell on her face, softening her tired features. "Adrian?" she whispered, surprised to see him in the doorway. He straightened. "You should be resting." She sat up, pulling the blanket closer. "I didn't expect you to be here." "Ibrahim, clearly," he said, his voice low. "You fainted twice in 2 days. My men would call that a pattern." Ibrahim, her lips curved into a weak smile. "Maybe I just work too hard." Ibrahim. He walked into the room, every step measured. "Or maybe you're hiding something." Her eyes widened for a second before she quickly looked away. "Why would you say that?" He pulled the chair closer to her bed and sat down. For a man who ruled empires with a cold stare, his eyes tonight were searching, almost gentle. "I found something," he said finally. Her fingers tightened on the blanket. "What did you find?" He took out the baby photo, holding it between his fingers like evidence and confession all at once. Her breath caught. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "From your pocket," he said simply. "When you fainted." Her hands trembled as she reached for it. But he didn't let go immediately. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment the air thickened. The room felt smaller, warmer. "It's just a photo," she tried to say casually, but her voice wavered. "It's not just anything," he countered. "The way you held it." "Elena, who is this baby?" Burst silence. She looked down at the picture, her throat tight. The memory flooded back. Soft lullabies, a hospital room, the tiny hand gripping her finger. "It's someone I lost," she said softly, eyes glistening. Adrian's chest tightened unexpectedly. Loss. He knew that feeling. Too well. But he didn't push further, not yet. His instincts told him there was more, but his heart, strangely, told him to wait. He leaned back, crossing his arms. "I don't like mysteries in my house, Elena, but I'm giving you time. Don't make me regret that." Abri, she nodded slowly, holding the photo close to her heart. She wasn't ready to tell him everything. Not tonight. Later, when he left the room, she sat alone, staring at the photo. Her secret was no longer fully hers. And worse, she felt something for the man holding the truth in his hands. The next morning, the mansion was alive with quiet movement. Security men, kitchen staff, drivers, all carefully keeping their distance from Adrian's unexpected guest. Elena walked slowly down the stairs, wrapped in a soft robe one of the maids had given her. She still felt weak, but there was a spark of determination in her steps. She found Adrian in his office. The door was open. He was leaning against his desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, the early sunlight touching his sharp features. "Morning," she said softly. He looked up, his usual cold expression tempered by something else. "You should be in bed." "I'm not sick," she insisted. "You fainted twice." "Ibrahim, I'm fine now." Ibrahim sighed, rubbing his jaw. "You're stubborn. You're bossy," she shot back without thinking. For a moment, his lips curved. Just barely. It was the first real smile she'd seen from him, and it made her heart skip. "Come here," he said. She hesitated. "Why?" "Hebrew, because I said so." Ibrahim, she rolled her eyes but stepped closer. When she stood in front of him, she noticed how close he was, the warmth radiating from him, the way his gaze flicked to her lips before returning to her eyes. Her breath caught. He reached out, not to grab her, but to gently fix the loose tie on her robe. His fingers brushed her collarbone. A shiver ran through her. "You need to eat," he murmured, voice lower now. "Are you always this controlling?" she whispered. "I keep what's mine safe," he replied, almost too quietly. Her heart pounded. "I'm not yours." He leaned closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "Not yet," he said. The moment stretched, tense, charged, confusing. Then he stepped back, breaking the spell. "Breakfast is ready. Come." She followed him to the dining room, her mind racing. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. He was dangerous. He was the boss. And yet, her heart didn't seem to care. The clinking of silverware filled the large dining room, but neither of them said a word. Elena sat across from Adrian at the long mahogany table, a plate of pancakes and fruit in front of her. She picked at it nervously, aware of his gaze on her. He ate slowly, deliberately. Every move was controlled, powerful. It wasn't just a man sitting across from her, it was a force. "You don't have to stare," she finally muttered, unable to take it any more. "I'm not staring," he replied smoothly. "I'm observing." "Abra feels the same," she said under her breath. His lips twitched slightly. "I like to know what's happening under my roof." Abra, she looked up, meeting his eyes. "And what exactly do you think is happening?" He leaned back, folding his arms, his dark shirt stretching across his chest. "I think a woman with secrets fainted in my building, and now she's sitting at my table pretending she's fine." Her throat went dry. She hated how easily he saw through her. "And," he added, voice dropping a little, "I think you don't quite know what to do with me." Her fork froze mid-air. "Excuse me? Abra, you're nervous," he said softly, but not scared. She stared at him, hounding. He tilted his head. "Everyone is, eventually." His words hung in the air, but instead of fear, she felt something else, a strange pull. She pushed her plate away and stood. "Thanks for breakfast. I should get to work." "Abra, you're not going anywhere," he said firmly. She turned to him, frustrated. "You can't keep me here." "Abra, I can," he said calmly, "and I will, until I figure out what you're hiding." Her hands clenched at her sides. "You don't own me." Sieber, he stood too, and suddenly the space between them felt electric. He was close now, too close. His height, his presence, the warmth of his body, it all surrounded her like an invisible cage. "I don't have to own you," he whispered, "but I will protect what's under my roof, even from itself." Her breath hitched. This wasn't just control. There was something in his voice, something almost protective. She stepped back, but he followed, closing the distance. Her back hit the wall. His hand came up, not to trap, but to rest beside her head. His other hand gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Why are you here, Elena?" he asked, softer now. "Really?" "Abraham," her heart pounded. "I already told you I work." Abraham interrupted. "No lies." "Abraham," Jarbrick, she stared into his eyes. They were sharp, dangerous, but beneath them, a flicker of something else, something she couldn't name. She swallowed. "I can't tell you." "But why?" "Or because if I do..." She paused, her voice trembling. Everything will change. His jaw tightened. It already is. Bibri. The room was silent. All she could hear was her heartbeat, and his breathing close to her ear. He leaned in slightly, his breath brushing her skin. I don't like mysteries, he murmured. Then maybe you shouldn't have let me stay, she whispered back. He gave a small, almost dangerous smile. Too late for that. For a long moment neither moved. The world outside faded. It was just them, caught between danger and desire. Finally he stepped back, letting her breathe. She exhaled shakily, her hands gripping the wall. Stay inside today, he said, turning away. My men will keep an eye on you. And if I don't? She challenged. He looked over his shoulder. Then they'll bring you back. Her chest tightened with a mix of frustration and something she didn't want to name. He was infuriating, and yet she couldn't stop thinking about the way his eyes softened when he asked about the photo. Later that day, Elena wandered into the mansion's garden. The air was crisp, the roses in bloom. She found a small bench and sat down, clutching the baby photo again. She whispered, I'm trying to keep you safe, as if talking to someone who wasn't there. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her until a coat was draped over her shoulders. She jumped, turning to see Adrian standing there. You'll get cold, he said simply. I'm fine, she replied. You keep saying that, he said, and yet you keep proving otherwise. Ibrahim, she rolled her eyes. You're impossible. And you're reckless, he countered. It's a dangerous combination. Brr. They sat in silence for a moment. It surprised her that he joined her on the bench. Mafia bosses didn't sit in gardens. They didn't hand out coats. You're different here, she said quietly. He raised a brow. Here? Bury in the garden, away from your men, away from the walls. You're almost human, Ibrahim, he chuckled softly. Almost. Ibrahim. She looked at him, really looked. There was something in his eyes, a weight, a loneliness he didn't show anyone else. Who hurt you? She asked before she could stop herself. His smile vanished. His gaze hardened. Careful, Elena, he warned. She bit her lip. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But he surprised her. Someone did. A long time ago. Her heart ached at the quiet in his voice. He didn't owe her that piece of himself, but he gave it anyway. She turned toward him. Then maybe we're not so different. He looked at her, and for the first time something shifted. Not as boss and intruder, but as two broken souls who found each other by accident. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the way he looked at her in the garden. She told herself it was wrong, dangerous, but her heart didn't listen. Down the hall, Adrian stood by his window, looking at the city. His thoughts weren't on business tonight. They were on her. He didn't know what she was hiding, but he knew one thing for sure. She wasn't leaving his world anymore. And deep down, he didn't want her to. The storm rolled in that night without warning. Dark clouds covered the city and rain began to pour, drumming against the mansion's windows like an uninvited guest. Elena stood by her room's balcony door, watching the raindrops race down the glass. Her thoughts were louder than the thunder. The photo lay on the bedside table, her secret, her burden. She couldn't keep it from Adrian forever. And part of her didn't want to anymore. A knock on the door pulled her back. She turned, expecting a maid. Instead, it was him. Adrian stepped inside, dressed in black, rain on his shoulders as if he had just returned from outside. He didn't ask permission to enter. He never did. You're not asleep, he said, his voice steady but softer than usual. Neither are you, she replied. He walked toward the balcony, his gaze following hers out into the storm. Bad night for anyone to be out, he murmured. Were you? She asked. He nodded once. Business. That word carried weight. Business meant danger, violence, shadows moving where the law didn't reach. He turned back to her, his eyes locking onto hers. You've been quiet today. I've had a lot on my mind. Like what? She hesitated, the truth pressed against her chest, begging to be spoken. Like whether I should trust you, she whispered. His jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't look away. That's fair, he said after a moment, but understand this. I don't let people this close easily. If you're here, it's because I chose it. Ibrir, her heart skipped at his words. Why did you? Tibra, he stepped closer. The air between them shifted, charged with something deeper. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe because you're not like the others. She felt her pulse quicken. That's not a reason. Abrek, it's enough for me, he said. The storm outside cracked with thunder. The lights flickered briefly, plunging them into momentary darkness. When they came back on, he was even closer. She could smell the rain on him, the faint scent of his cologne, dark, intoxicating. Adrian, she breathed, unsure whether it was a warning or a plea. He lifted a hand slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. His fingers touched her cheek gently, almost reverently. The man who commanded fear now held her like she was fragile glass. You keep looking at me like you want to run, he said softly. But you haven't. Maybe I don't know where to run, she whispered. He leaned closer, their foreheads almost touching. Then don't. The rain crashed harder. The world outside blurred, but inside everything felt painfully sharp. For a moment, neither moved. It wasn't just attraction now. It was something raw, something neither of them wanted to name. Then she stepped back, breathless, clutching her robe tighter. This is dangerous. He watched her carefully. For who? Ibri, for both of us, she said. His gaze darkened, but there was a softness beneath it. I've lived in danger all my life. This, he gestured between them, is the only thing that feels real lately. Ibrir, her heart twisted. She wanted to believe him, she wanted to fall. But her secret held her back like invisible chains. She turned away, walking toward the bed. You don't know everything. Then tell me, he said firmly. She froze. Her hand hovered over the photo on the table, fingers trembling. She almost picked it up, almost handed it to him. But then she whispered, not yet. Ibrifer, he exhaled slowly. You're testing my patience. Barkri, I'm protecting something, she said quietly. He stepped closer, stopping just behind her. His presence was warm, overwhelming. I'll find out eventually, he murmured near her ear. That's what I do. Ibri's eyes closed. She believed him. The following morning the storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and cold, but tension still lingered like mist. Elena walked into the main hall, where Adrian was on the phone, pacing like a predator. His voice was sharp, commanding. I don't care what it takes, he snapped. Find out who's been asking about her. Ibri, her breath caught. Her. When he noticed her, he lowered the phone slowly, his expression unreadable. Who's asking about me? She asked cautiously. He didn't answer right away. He walked toward her, each step measured. Somebody's been sniffing around the neighborhood, he said finally. My men caught word. They mentioned a woman matching your description. Buriher's stomach turned cold. He watched her reaction closely. You want to tell me why someone might be looking for you? She forced herself to keep steady. I don't know. His eyes narrowed slightly. Lying doesn't suit you. Abraham, I'm not voice low. Elena, don't. The way he said her name sent a shiver down her spine. Not out of fear, but something else entirely. I'll keep you safe, he said, softer now, even if you won't tell me everything. For why? She whispered. Because I want to, he said simply, and because someone out there thinks you matter. That makes you my problem now. Her chest tightened. She didn't want to be a problem, but part of her was starting to want to be his. That night she found herself unable to sleep again. She wandered through the halls and ended up in his study. The room was dim, the fire crackling softly. He was there, of course, working, always working, but when he saw her, something in his eyes softened immediately. Couldn't sleep? He asked. She shook her head. Either could you. He smirked faintly. I don't sleep much. Abri, she walked closer, drawn to him, like a moth to flame. Because of me? She asked before she could stop herself. He closed the file on his desk. Partly. Ibr. Her pulse quickened. He stood, closing the distance between them slowly. You've turned my house upside down, Elena, he said quietly, and I don't even know how you did it. Gabrifi, she swallowed hard. Maybe I didn't mean to. Abriki doesn't matter, he murmured. It's done. Brr, close again. The firelight danced on his face, painting him in gold and shadow. She felt the heat, not just from the fire, but from the way his gaze lingered on her lips. She should have stepped back, but she didn't. The space between them seemed to hum. The fire cracked softly behind them, but neither moved. Adrian's gaze was steady, unguarded in a way she'd never seen before. For once, there was no mask of the Mafia Boss, just the man beneath it. You should get some rest, he said finally, voice low. So should you, she replied. He smirked faintly. I don't rest well. Why? She asked softly.
But the moment I do, someone tries to take what's mine.
Her breath caught at the quiet intensity in his words. What's yours now? She whispered. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, his presence enveloping her. I don't know what you are to me yet, he said honestly, but I know I don't want to lose you. Her heart pounded. The honesty in his tone struck deeper than any flirtation could. She looked away, suddenly overwhelmed. Adrian, you don't even know me. I know enough, he replied. I know the way you hold that photo like your life depends on it. I know you work yourself to exhaustion to hide something, and I know that when you look at me you're not afraid. Her lips parted slightly. He noticed everything. People fear you, she said softly. They should, he answered, but you don't. She met his gaze again. Maybe I should. He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. Maybe. But you don't. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between them. His hand lifted, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, lingering against her cheek. The touch was gentle, almost questioning. Why do you keep letting me get this close? He asked quietly. She swallowed hard. Because I don't know how to stop. Something flickered in his eyes, something dangerous and tender all at once. Then he stepped back, before it consumed them both. You should go, he said, his voice rougher now. Before I stop thinking. She turned toward the door, but her heart ached with every step away from him. She wasn't sure if she was running from him or toward something inevitable. The next morning brought no peace. Adrian was in the living room when one of his men rushed in. Boss, we found something. Elena, curious, stayed near the hallway listening. The man handed Adrian a small envelope. He opened it. Inside were photographs, grainy, shots taken from a distance. Her, at the cafe, at the mansion gate. In town. Someone was following her. Adrian's face hardened. When were these taken? For different days, the man replied. Weeks apart. Whoever it is, they're patient. Elena's stomach twisted. She stepped into the room slowly. What's going on? He turned the photos toward her. Someone's been watching you. Her hands trembled as she looked at them. The fear in her chest was real now, rising like a wave. Who would do this? She whispered. That's what I intend to find out, he said firmly. She met his gaze, and for the first time there was no teasing, no flirtation, only fierce protectiveness. You're staying here, he ordered. She opened her mouth to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't a demand out of control. It was a promise of safety. She nodded slowly. Okay. Later that day she found herself in the garden again, trying to quiet the storm inside her. But peace wouldn't come. Adrian found her there, hands folded tightly in her lap, staring at nothing. You're scared, he said softly. She didn't deny it. I've been running for so long, I thought I could just disappear. He sat beside her, not too close, not too far. Running doesn't work forever. I know, she whispered, but I didn't think anyone would find me here. He turned his head toward her. Who are you running from, Elena? Met yet, holding back tears. I can't tell you, not yet. Had made a reason to keep protecting you, he said quietly, because right now whoever's out there isn't backing off. She met his eyes, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was none. He wasn't asking because he needed control. He was asking because he cared. She took a shaky breath. It's not just my secret, she whispered. It's someone else's too. His brow furrowed slightly, but he didn't press. Then whoever it is, they just made it my problem too. Her chest tightened. She wasn't used to someone standing between her and danger. She wasn't sure how to accept it. That night, the tension between them grew thick again. She found herself standing outside his office door, heart pounding. She didn't even know why she'd come. When she knocked softly, his voice answered immediately. "Come in." He was at his desk again, the light from the lamp casting shadows across his face. When he saw her, his expression softened slightly. "You should be sleeping," he said. "So should you," she answered. He leaned back, studying her. "You're restless." She nodded. "Come here," he said. She hesitated, then stepped forward slowly until she was standing in front of his desk. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. Really looked. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. She shook her head. "No." "Good," he said softly. "Because I need you to trust me." She swallowed. "That's not easy for me," he murmured. "I'm asking for real." Something in her broke at those words. The walls she'd built started to crack, and for the first time she let herself imagine what it might feel like to stop running. Outside, the rain began to fall again, softly this time. Inside, two people sat in silence, their hearts slowly, cautiously beginning to intertwine. Neither of them said it aloud. But everything had changed. The night was unusually quiet. No footsteps, no gunshots in the distance, no murmurs from the guards, just silence. Elena lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. The baby photo on the nightstand caught the faint light from the lamp. She reached for it, her fingers brushing the worn edges. Her throat tightened. She'd carried it for so long, and now it felt heavier than ever.